Okay, let's just be honest for a second. When I say the words puff pastry, or, you want to be fancy, pâte, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For most people, I don't think it's hunger, it's fear.
Oh, it's absolute terror.
Right. It just feels like this huge culinary mountain you have to climb with, like special gear. It's the thing you buy in the freezer aisle.
Exactly, because making it yourself just seems like complete madness.
But today, we are unpacking a masterclass that suggests otherwise. We're doing a deep dive into a demonstration by, well, the one and only Martha Stewart from her series, Martha Bakes.
And this is such a fascinating one because we're not just looking at a recipe. We're really looking at a feat of what you could call edible engineering.
I love that. Edible
It
engineering.
really is. I mean, we are taking 4 of the most basic ingredients you can imagine: butter, flour, cream, and salt, and through like sheer physics and geometry, turning them into exactly 729 distinct layers.
Whoa. Okay, you just dropped a number there that I have to flag. 729.
It's exactly 729. It's not around 1,000 or something. It's a mathematical certainty.
That just sounds impossible to do by hand. But okay, that's the mission for today. We need to figure out how that actually happens. We're going to deconstruct the science of lamination, understand why temperature is the absolute boss of this whole process,
It's everything.
and then see how this one dough creates 4 totally different things. We're talking savory cheese straws, sweet palmiers, a really structured Napoleon, and then this show-stopping cake called a pithiviers.
The versatility is what makes it so cool. One single technique, 4 completely different outcomes.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. The architecture of the dough. I mentioned the ingredients: butter, flour, cream, salt. What's missing? Because when things puff up, there's usually yeast, right? Or baking powder.
That's the first big realization here. There is 0 chemical leavening in true puff pastry.
None.
No yeast, no baking soda, nothing. The lift, that incredible expansion you see in the oven, is purely mechanical.
So it's what, just steam?
It's steam power, pure and simple. The water that's in the butter and the cream hits that hot oven, expands like crazy, and it literally pushes the layers of dough apart. But for that to work, you have to build the structure right in the first place.
Okay.
So Martha starts with 2 separate components. You've got the barrage and the détrempe.
Those sound very French and very intimidating. Let's break those down. The barrage is just the butter, right? The butter block.
It is, but here's a little trick that makes a huge difference. You don't just use a solid block of butter. Martha takes 1 pound of unsalted butter, that's 4 whole sticks, and she actually mixes it with a ½ cup of flour.
Wait, really? Flour in the butter? Wouldn't that mess with the fat?
You'd think so, but it's all about physics. It's about rheology, the way things flow. If you had pure cold butter, it might be too hard and just crack inside the dough. Or if it's too soft, it squishes out. By adding that flour, you're changing the butter's texture so it mimics the consistency of the dough itself. You want them to move together.
So they stretch at the same rate when you roll them. That makes so much sense.
Precisely. The flour just helps bridge that gap. So she shapes that into a perfect 5 by 5 inch square.
And then you have the dough part, the détrempe. And I'm looking at the notes here, and she does something a little unusual. Most recipes use water, but Martha uses heavy cream.
Right. About 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 cups of it.
That sounds incredibly rich.
It is. It adds so much tenderness. Water makes a dough that's, crisper, maybe a little leaner. The fat from the cream just makes the final pastry more tender and flavorful. But she gives a big warning.
Which is?
Do not make a wet dough. If it's sticky at this stage, you are setting yourself up for a world of pain later on.
Okay, so we've got our butter block, we've got our dough ball. And this brings us to, I think, the golden rule of this entire deep dive. Temperature.
Oh, temperature isn't just a rule. It's practically an ingredient in itself. Martha is so clear about this. You need a cool workspace. She literally says, if it's a hot day and you don't have air conditioning, just don't even try.
Don't bother. She also suggests using a marble counter since it stays naturally cold.
Yeah, and the mantra she repeats is, make it cold, bake it hot. The butter has to stay in solid, distinct sheets between the dough layers. If that butter melts while you're rolling,
it all just fuses together.
Exactly. And you don't get puff, you just get a dense, greasy cracker.
Yeah.
The whole engineering project fails.
Make it cold, bake it hot. Got it.
Okay, so we have our cold ingredients. Now for the math, this is the part I'm excited about. The 729 layers. How does that work?
It is the simple power of exponential growth. It all starts when you encase the butter. You roll the dough out into a rectangle, you put that 5 by 5 butter square in the middle, and then you fold the dough over it like you're sealing an envelope.
So you have a little package. Dough, butter, dough.
Essentially, yeah. But for our math, we're calling that one single layer of butter. Now comes the turn. You roll that whole package out into a long rectangle about 20 by 9 inches, and then you fold it into thirds.
Like a business letter. Exactly like a letter. That is one turn. And right there, you've just tripled your layers. You now have 3.
Okay.
Then you roll it out again, rotate it 90 degrees. She says counterclockwise. And you fold it in thirds again. That's turn number 2.
So turn 1 is 3 layers. Turn 2 is 9.
9 layers.
Yeah.
And you just keep going.
You just keep repeating that process.
Yep. Turn 3 gives you 27. Turn 4, 81. Turn 5, 243. And finally, turn number 6.
Gives you 729.
It's just 3 to the power of 6.
That is wild how quickly that number climbs. But you can't do all 6 turns at once, can you? Because of the heat from rolling.
You're exactly right. The friction creates heat. Heat melts the butter. So you have to chill the dough between every couple of turns. And this is where Martha has this amazing little hack. Because honestly, who's going to remember if they're on turn 3 or turn 4?
Oh, the fingerprint hack.
It's so clever. Before she puts the dough back in the fridge, she'll just press 2 fingers into it if she's done 2 turns, 3 fingers for 3 turns. It's a physical reminder stamped right on the dough.
That's genius. It's those little things that, make all the difference. Okay, so let's fast forward. We've done the work. We've done 6 turns. We now have this block of dough in the fridge that secretly contains 729 layers.
There's so much potential energy in that block.
And now we get to release it. Martha uses this one dough to make 4 completely different things. Let's start with the savory one, the cheese straws.
This is her go-to hors d'oeuvre. And what I love is how she gets the flavor in there. She doesn't just sprinkle cheese on top. She puts grated cheese Parmesan and Gruyere right on the counter and rolls the dough into it.
That's so aggressive. So the cheese gets, pressed right into the dough.
It gets embedded. It becomes part of the actual crust.
Yeah.
And then for the visual, she does something really cool. One side of the dough gets pressed into paprika.
Or that nice red-orange color.
And the other side gets toasted poppy seeds. So you get this black and gray speckle. It's a huge visual punch. Then she just cuts them into strips with a pizza wheel and bakes them.
And this is where bake it hot comes into play. She bakes them at, 375, 400 degrees?
Yep, nice and hot. And because there's nothing weighing them down, they just go crazy.
They just puff up.
They explode
in
the best way. The steam hits, the layers separate, and they twist and puff up and become, as she says, light as air. It's chaotic and bubbly and super crispy.
Okay, so that's the unconstrained savory version. Now let's switch gears to sweet, the palm ears, or elephant ears.
Right. And this is a total chemistry shift. Instead of flour or cheese, she rolls the dough in granulated sugar. A ton of it, 3/4 of a cup.
And does that change the physics of what's happening?
Oh, completely. Sugar is hygroscopic, meaning it attracts water. The second it touches that dough, it starts pulling out moisture and melting, makes the dough soft and sticky fast. So her big piece of advice here is speed. You are literally racing against the melt.
That sounds pretty stressful. And how do you get that classic palmier shape?
It's actually kind of fun. She says it's like making snakes out of clay when you were a kid. You just roll the 2 long sides of the rectangle inwards until they meet in the middle.
Ah, I see. And then you slice it.
You slice it. And she's very specific about using a sharp Japanese cleaver because a dull knife would just squash all those beautiful layers you work so hard for.
And what about the baking pan? I saw a note that she uses the black steel pan specifically.
Yes, that's thermodynamics. Black pans absorb and radiate heat way more efficiently than shiny aluminum ones. And for palmiers, you want that intense heat to caramelize the sugar into a crunchy, glassy coating.
And she sprays the pan with water first. That feels so counterintuitive if you want something crispy.
I know, but it's called the water trick. It does 2 things. The little bit of steam it creates helps stop the sugar from burning before it can caramelize. And it also helps the lightweight pastries stick to the pan so they don't blow around from the oven's convection fan.
Wow, and the temp is even higher here?
450 degrees. It's a flash bake. Just 4 to 6 minutes on one side, you flip them, then 3 or 4 minutes on the other. The result is just this glistening, crunchy, caramelized cookie.
Okay, that sounds amazing, but you definitely have to be paying attention.
You cannot walk away. Sugar burns in a heartbeat.
Right. Application number 3. The Napoleon. This one feels so much more architectural. It's very precise.
It is. A Napoleon is all about those clean, neat layers.
Yeah.
But that's a problem, because as we just saw, puff pastry wants to puff wildly and unevenly. For a Napoleon, you need it to be flat.
So how do you stop the puff from doing what it was engineered to do?
You have to constrain it. First, she docks the dough, which just means poking holes all over it with a fork. That lets some steam escape gently.
But that's not all she does. She has that rack hack, which I'd never seen before.
It's my favorite part.
Yep.
She places a wire cooling rack directly on top of the pastry while it bakes.
You're kidding. Literally sitting on the dough in the oven.
Right on top of it. It physically forces the dough to bake into what she calls a light brick. It still gets flaky and cooked through, but it can't expand upwards. It stays perfectly flat.
That is so cool. It's like putting a governor on an engine. You're just forcing it to behave. And for the filling.
It's a creme pâtissière, but she lightens it up by folding in whipped cream. That's important, because a heavy cream would just squish the delicate pastry. She layers that with these beautiful brandywine raspberries from her garden, which are this amazing deep purple color.
So elegant, so precise. Which brings us to the grand finale, the pithiviers.
The epiphany cake. This is the most complex one. It's basically a big stuffed pastry cake.
Martha calls it intoxicating, which is a pretty strong word for a cake. What's on the inside?
Frangipane. It's this incredible almond cream made with ground almonds, dark rum, sugar, butter, and a little bit of almond extract.
And how is this thing built? Because you have to seal that filling inside.
It's 2 9-inch circles of dough.
Yeah.
You put one down, spread the frangipane in the middle, leaving a border, and then you use an egg wash as glue to seal the top circle on.
Glue. I like that.
But then she does something that is critical for the engineering. She adds a chimney.
A literal chimney.
A small metal pastry tip stuck right in the very center of the cake.
And that's not just for decoration.
No, it's all about steam management. The filling and the dough are going to produce a lot of steam. Without an escape route, the whole thing could just explode or blow out a side seam. The chimney gives all that pressure a safe place to go.
That is so smart. It shows you really have to think about the physics, but the part that blew me away was the artistry, the scoring on top.
Yeah, this takes a steady hand. She uses a knife to score a spiral design on the top. But, and this is key, she only cuts through the first few layers of the dough, not all the way to the filling.
So as it bakes and puffs, those lines open up?
They fan out and create this incredible 3D texture. Then she scallops the edges with the back of a knife. The final product is this glossy, golden brown, domed cake that looks, well, she calls it modern art.
And you can just imagine the smell, that intoxicating almond aroma.
It is the ultimate showcase of what this dough can do. You get the structure, the lift, the flavor, and the beauty all in one package.
Okay, let's just step back for a moment. We started with a pile of flour and a pile of butter.
And by applying these strict rules of physics, temperature, folding, friction, we built a structure with 729 layers.
And from that one single starting point, we got a crispy, salty appetizer with the cheese straw.
A crunchy, caramelized cookie with the palmier.
A perfectly constrained flat layer for the Napoleon.
And a beautiful, domed, aromatic cake with the pithiviers.
It really makes you rethink the whole idea that baking is rigid. You always hear that cooking is an art, baking is a science. And people usually mean that as a knock on baking, that it's too restrictive.
Right, like you can't be creative, you just have to follow the rules or you'll fail.
Exactly. But this deep dive kind of proves the opposite. Mastering the science, the really rigid technique of lamination, is what unlocks all the creativity. Once you have that perfect dough, you can do anything with it.
The constraint isn't a prison, it's a platform.
That's a great way to put it. The discipline enables the art.
It does. You can't get that beautiful pithiviers if you didn't respect the temperature of the butter way back in step 1.
Yeah. You know, when Martha said the pithiviers looks like modern art, it got me thinking. We tend to look at kitchen tasks, like making dough from scratch, as just a chore, drudgery.
Or something you just buy from the freezer section to save time.
Right. But if you actually engage with the why behind it, why the butter has to be cold, why the oven has to be hot, it stops being a chore and it starts becoming a craft. It gives you the sense of mastery.
And that feeling when you pull something out of the oven that you engineered, that you built layer by layer, you can't buy that.
So here's my final thought for you to chew on today. Martha Stewart took a simple manipulation of physics and temperature and literally turned it into art. What other chores in your life, in the kitchen or anywhere else, are actually opportunities for mastery that you might be just ignoring? Is there something else that seems mundane that, if you learn the science behind it, could become magic?
That is a question worth exploring.
Thanks for diving in with us. Go find some cold butter and we'll see you next time.
Happy baking.